Hey, this is Silas. Again, this is just another impromptu, off the top of my head video. There's been another attack in Paris, France. This time, one policeman shot dead and another one injured. This is on the Champs-Élysées, which is one of the most popular shopping districts in Paris. The assailant came out of a vehicle with an AK-47 and started shooting. So I, of course, have little information at this time, as it's something I just heard of, but the narratives, of course, are going to start, and they've already begun. So here are some of my thoughts, and then I'll read something that led me to make this video and this post. So France has very strict restrictions on guns. The gun laws on the who can have a gun, how many guns are allowed in the country, are under very strict regulation. But by definition, because they are criminals, they don't care about the laws. So they will try to find ways to get these guns anyway. When you restrict gun ownership, the people who are restricted the most are people who care about the law, who care about following the law, have higher burdens to getting those guns. So who did this? We know that North Korea is a horrible place. I'm going to leave a link to a really good podcast I just listened to on how horrible of a place it is. But does anyone think, if they hear in the coming days or the coming hours that it was an Asian assailant, that this would be some North Korean sleeper cell striking back at the resurgent West? No, you don't. Those that previously identified as Asians, I'm talking about the Vietnamese, the Chinese, the Koreans, the Japanese, nationality wise, the indigenous people from those areas, I'm wondering how they feel about the increase of Asian being used in labeling. And I've posted before that Indonesia is the most populous Muslim country, but this conflation of nationality, geography, and the name, I would I would imagine it would be insulting to some people. But it kind of follows this whole idea that they have of Muslim as a race. So now instead of identifying a different race, they kind of breaking it up to blacks, whites, and Asians, and then they're saying, "Oh, let's just throw the Muslims or the Arabs in with the Asians." I don't know if that's part of what's happening with this, but this is the kind of situation where you almost hope that you find out it's just some crazy white French guy that maybe couldn't afford to buy something there, but you almost know it's going to be. Anyway, the voting in the two-part French presidential election has already begun. Marine Le Pen is getting a lot of popularity. I think they had the first round, and the second round is going to be on Sunday. I was planning on having some people over to kind of watch that and just talk politics, hang out with friends that are more politically active. But I myself was born in France, in Paris, and I haven't been back since I left when I was 5. I've been kind of thinking of going back. Had almost went back for a post grad course. Was considering that for a while, but have been watching from afar the seeming disintegration of the place. And I've had people who were living there who've come back and told me that, as it is in many cities across the world or places where this terrorism occurs from migrants, and the migrants are not widespread. They're normally in very concentrated areas in the city. So you can have a situation where most of the city, most of the people are relatively safe. Yet you have these no-go zones, and this is another thing I was thinking about when I finally go back to Paris. If I finally go back, what if I went to try to find the apartment that I lived in and find that it's now in some no-go zone that I can't go see? That's it's a minor thing, but it's something that I just wanted to mention. But the thing with terrorism is the randomness of it. Not even, because accidents also happen random. I don't know exactly what I'm getting at with this point, but terrorism is it's a unique monster of itself. I mean, I know there's regular things that happen in life. You could be walking downstairs, trip, fall down, and break your neck. And there's probably more people who die walking downstairs in France. I was going to say in France total last year, but considering how many terrorist attacks there have been, I'm not comfortable saying that. But look, what I'm trying to say is these random things that people try to compare, like, oh, more people die from cigarettes, or more people die from these like car accidents, these random things. Yes, we get that. Things happen because of what people do. But when people are talking about immigration, it's a similar way to saying maybe people shouldn't drive drunk, maybe people should drive slower, maybe people should consider quitting cigarettes when they're trying to alleviate those deaths that happen from those things. You can't just divorce the two from each other, despite how easily people of this mindset also tend to divorce. And that's another major issue. They don't really divorce since they still stay together with alimony and things like that. But getting back to the point, this is a much more avoidable thing. I know you can say, let's stop using stairs, let's make them all slides, or let's make all buildings single floor buildings. I mean, there's a lot of just really dumb things people say when it comes to this topic. But I'm rambling with this situation. Let me get back to what I read that kind of inspired this. Okay, this was something I saw on Facebook. I'd kind of forgotten the Facebook newsfeed, but finally decided to check it out, and this is something that I read there. It was about the attack, linked with an article from The Guardian. So today's attack was perpetrated on behalf of the Islamic State Daesh. The attackers deliberately planned to strike in the run-up to the French election. They want to influence the election, but the only influence a terror attack could render with any certainty is a boost in support for the nationalist, anti-Islamic candidate. That means Daesh and people sympathetic to Daesh know their recruiting benefits and power increases when democracies elect anti-Islamic candidates. They are actively working towards that end, trying to influence the election in France. If Marine Le Pen wins, Daesh wins. If we really care about defeating terrorists, the world needs to deny them what they want by rejecting nationalist, anti-Islamic candidates everywhere we can and stop making their recruiting work so painfully easy. I shared this with my friends and just said, cuckery knows no color, because this was shared by apparently a man of recent African origin. That's what I call people with black skin, I guess. Because I don't know where he's from, nationality wise, or whatever, what he identifies as. But this is absurd. To say making the recruiting work so painfully easy when you're talking about the situation where people have died, just the gall of some of these people, it disgusts me. And okay, with Marine Le Pen, I don't know much about her actual politics besides her nationalist tendency. You see this on the media, of course, they're calling the nationalism, and she's very anti-immigration, wants to get out of the EU. But across the board, apparently she is rather socialist when it comes to her policies, her governmental policies, big on welfare, not really rolling back. I saw this thing with France. There's one politician that's trying to get the work week down to 32 weeks, 32 hours a week or something. But what do you say about something like this? And I know many people share this idea that they say anti-Islamic candidates increases the recruitment of these people. But if you're getting people who want to close their own personal countries away from immigration from Islamic countries, and then this is the same kind of person who I think might also say, or I see this same sentiment coming from people who also say that this terrorism has nothing to do with Islam. Yet they're saying the Islamic State, Daesh. You can see they're using Daesh here. Sometimes that conflates. They don't use ISIS. Similar. It's the same thing. It's just different names. But what does this terrorism have something to do with Islam? If it has nothing to do with Islam, then being anti-Islamic shouldn't have anything to do with it. But then that goes back to what I was saying before with the Asian thing. There's this conflation of race, nationality, and religion. But I just wanted to talk about this, just to put this up and my thoughts on this thing I read, and just a few thoughts on this Paris story. Maybe I'll post more on it when more information comes in. But thanks for listening. Like, share, and subscribe if you like this. Bye.